Joining us now to discuss Bitcoin and more news headlines hitting the wires is FTX US CEO Brett Harrison. Welcome to the show, Brett. Good to see you in person.
Yes.
All right. Well, taking a look at Bitcoin, people did notice large sums of Bitcoin moving on FTX US the other day, and there were a lot of questions about what that was all about.
Sure. So the great thing about Bitcoin, obviously, is that people can track all the transactions that are happening on the blockchain. Of course, that comes with the peril of people seeing what's going on and making assumptions about what the activity is. So in this case, they saw a large amount of Bitcoin being moved out of an FTX wallet, and that was just a standard reconsolidation of wallets that happens on FTX periodically to improve performance. There are these things called UTXOs, or unspent transaction outputs, resulting from lots of small and large deposits that occur within FTX. And occasionally, to improve performance, we'll do a consolidation of all those wallet amounts together, and that's what people saw. And there was some, very unsubstantiated rumors about hacking. None of that occurred.
Well, speaking of cryptocurrencies moving, we are seeing the Solana network down. Is that impacting any trading going on at FTX?
So it does impact, the ability to do blockchain transactions, for example, withdrawals, deposits for Sol right now while they're having issues, but it doesn't actually impact the trading of the Solana order book on FTX or FTX US.
Okay, and why is that? Because
once coins are on the exchange itself, all the on-exchange operations are happening on the centralized platform. They're not blockchain transactions.
Right. Also, we saw a boost in Litecoin the other day, as well as Bitcoin, because of this fake Walmart news release. When things like that happen in traditional markets, there may be some circuit breaker. Obviously, we don't have that in the crypto markets, but I'm just wondering your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's tough. When you have a market like the cryptocurrency markets, which are definitely in the maturing phase. They're not, as well developed as the equity markets are. You're going to see things like this happen, and they're unfortunate. These sort of fake news stories that cause, manipulation in prices. And, we do hope that over time there's more, regulatory clarity for the exchanges to help enforce certain kinds of rules that would prevent these kinds of things, but also have the ability for, enforcement action to be taken against, perpetrators of things like fake news that are causing these kinds of price movements.
Right. So Gary Gensler making some remarks before the Senate Banking Committee today, saying that it is, in all likelihood, trading platforms in crypto are trading securities and should register with the SEC. Something you agree with?
What I do agree with is that there should be regulation on the federal level for spot cryptocurrency exchanges. Exactly where that jurisdiction is going to lie between the SEC and the CFTC, we're going to see. I read Gensler's comments this morning, and it did seem like the chairman was willing to discuss the possibility of the CFTC and the SEC working together in some sort of joint jurisdiction capacity to figure out, how do you regulate a spot cryptocurrency exchange where some tokens might be securities, some tokens might be considered more like commodities under the CFTC regime. It's going to be interesting to see, but we're looking forward to a lot of the regulatory clarity we're hoping for coming out of the SEC and Chairman Gensler and the CFTC and Chairman Benham.
And is FTX in conversations with the SEC or the Treasury Department about regulation going forward in the sector?
We're absolutely in conversation with the CFTC and the SEC, talking with the staff, in constant dialogue, both about our current exchange and also our future plans. We think that is the only way for long-term exchange like ours to really exist, is for us to work cooperatively with them and collaboratively with them to figure out the next steps.
Any insight into what those conversations are like, whether or not your positions on how the industry should move forward?
The main insight I'll give is that I think that it's a misconception that either agency wants to stifle innovation. I think they recognize this is an important technology. It's here to stay. The asset class is a multi-trillion-dollar asset class. It's here to stay. They want it to exist, but they want it to be fair and orderly, and they want it to be regulated, and we support that.
Okay. And what can you say about your partnership, or your acquisition of LedgerX?
Sure. So we recently announced that we're acquiring LedgerX. LedgerX is a CFTC-regulated futures exchange, derivatives exchange, and clearinghouse. And so the goal here is that we would love to be able to offer derivatives through the FTX US platform to US customers, both institutions and retail. And through the licenses, the DCM, SEF, and DCO licenses offered by LedgerX, in collaboration with them, we're going to be able to eventually, and again, all pending discussions with the CFTC, be able to offer these products like BTC and ETH futures and options to our customer base.
And how do you differentiate yourselves, I suppose, with FTX versus FTX US?
Sure. So although they're ultimately, majority owned by Sam Bankman Fried, they're run as two separate companies with some shared technology. But FTX US runs entirely in the US, US personnel, US servers, US machines. We have completely separate order book liquidity, and we need to for regulatory reasons. That's why right now FTX US is just a spot cryptocurrency exchange, and more recently an NFT platform. But we're looking to offer derivatives the only way we know that we can, which is by operating underneath the CFTC regulatory regime.
And FTX, of course, has raised a ton of money, $900 million, and an $18 billion valuation. And I see a lot of that going into the marketing. We've got Steph Curry, Tom Brady, also Kevin O'Leary, who we just spoke to earlier. So tell me about this marketing push and what you're hoping to see the fruits of your labor in that regard.
So as you know, FTX US is a pretty young exchange. We're only about a year old. And you think about us competing against some of the major incumbents in this space, like Coinbase and Kraken, who have nearly a decade of experience. It's an uphill battle to do customer acquisition. And what we wanted to do is get our names out there to tens of millions of users in a quick way. And one way to do that, rather than doing the sort of traditional method of going out and buying Google ads or Facebook ads, is what's something that everyone in the country watches or knows about? Well, how about Major League Baseball? How about the NFL? How about Kevin O'Leary? And so it's through these partnerships that we're able to sort of show people that we are a reliable, compliant, safe brand for people to trust their money with, and the MLB agrees. Tom Brady agrees, Steph Curry agrees.
Corresponding with that marketing
push? Yeah, we definitely
push?
are seeing a growth of active users, of general brand awareness, of search hits, and so it's definitely working. But we also like to work with these partners in a lot of our charitable initiatives as well, especially with Steph and Ayesha Curry. So it's a very exciting time to be with these partnerships.